It struck me that since the article in the book that I contributed was about a character in a Handel opera which was sung by a castrato, I might tell you the little bit I know about the tradition in Italy of the castrati, because there's all kinds of nonsense floating around, and was then. And so let's just have a little thumbnail. Some of it is my guess, some of it is truth. There was the biggest font of the castrato singers was Naples. I think it's fair to say there were some from other places, Bologna, etc. But Naples was the biggest thing. I guess that since Naples has always been, was the biggest city in Europe in those days, full of poor people and street kids, I think that the majority of these little boys that were maimed surgically, because it is, after all, maiming, probably would have been dead of starvation, or killed by a rival gang in the street, or thrown into jail for murder or stealing or both by the time they were 10 years old. And so that puts another light on it. It wasn't cutting off the life of a person that really had a life expectancy that was worth anything. We in New York understand what a street kid means. It's also true, this is guesswork, that in Naples people sing. How many times have I taken a taxi in Naples, cab driver opens his mouth, sings with a magnificent tenor voice along with the radio that's playing. I imagine many of these poor kids that had a pretty voice would stand on a street corner with a friend with a guitar or whatever and sing a bit, and if the voice sounded nice, somebody got interested. Around 1700, 1690, whatever it was, the King of Naples came up with a brilliant idea to help the city and improve the music. He built the first music conservatory. And what it was a place where these street kids could be taken, taught a profession to sing, and have a life where they could earn a living and have a life. However, they had to be maimed before that would work. There were very few tenors and basses that came out of that. Probably chose the little kids with the pretty voices. They then castrated them. Now that's not guesswork, what I'm going to say now. We have documents of the curriculum in that place. They had to learn singing, they had to learn harpsichord playing, they had to learn playing figured bass at sight. They had to learn Greek poetry, Italian poetry, French poetry, and Latin poetry. They had to improvise in all that poetry. It's got a scan, that's not easy, ancient Greek. And then in the last years, they put everything together and were told to get up on the stage, sit down at the harpsichord and improvise the poetry and the music, sing it, and accompany it all at once. That's quite a feat. I don't think we have any, no matter how great, opera star of today that could pass that examination. Anyway, there they were. The earlier ones, I'm talking about 1690, of course they were much earlier, tended to have very low, rather rough voices, I would imagine, but very big and powerful and expressive. The man who sang in Rodelinda, Senesino, as far as I can see, it must have resembled very strongly the voice of Ethel Merman, in that it's all down in the chest voice and belted out like that. Then, as the years passed, the range started, they added high notes, and it creeps up and up. By 1760s, it's kind of mezzo-soprano mostly, and by 1780s, Mozart's time, they're way up in the stratosphere, weakening the low notes, of course. That's enough about castrati. Then, all right. Singers, until very recently, sang modern music, opera singers. We all were saying last night, when Caruso was singing, almost all the music he sang had been written after he was born. It was modern music. All that stopped, and now people are singing old music, and the revival of that. And so our age has invented the countertenor, which supposedly will replace the castrato. Of course, it's a very different kind of a voice. But I found there's an interesting phenomenon. The 1950s was the era of revival, of unusual repertory. And in Italy, Madame Callas revived the Donizetti and the Bellini and put it on the map. People had tried those operas long before, but they weren't sung well enough, and nobody really gave a damn until Callas came along and said, wait a minute, this is great stuff. Well, in the same time exactly, in New York City, after some more or less invalid experiments, Russell Oberlin appeared, and with the beautiful singing, brought back that repertory, and we're all still living in the backwash of that. We have yet to hear somebody who is up to the level of Russell Oberlin, just as we have yet to hear somebody who's up to the level of Miss Callas.